I believe as human beings, we don't want to see behind the scenes of somebody who didn't succeed.
No, that's
That's what I really think. That's the reality.
I think that's real. Yeah, obviously you need a bit of social calibration as to when and not to use this. But then it goes on to say, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, said Zen monk Shunryu Suzuki. In the expert's mind, there are a few.
Say that again, sorry.
So in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are a few.
Yeah. So that's I made an analogy earlier.
Yeah.
But the battery died. Peak. An analogy about the doctor, right, and the patient.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, when a patient gets an illness, there's a lot of hope and a lot of faith that this thing can be cured, or this illness, I can come out of it. But then a lot of the time, in a doctor's mind, who knows the books and knows the stats or whatever, who is the expert, so to say, there's a lot more doubt because they know the numbers, or they may know, what the statistics are. But that isn't to say that they're always right, and there are cases when it doesn't happen. So I guess that quote kind of opens you up to, that idea that being an expert doesn't always mean. A lot of the time it means a lot of doubt and a lot of lack of possibilities of what the outcome could be.
Yeah. I was having a chat with one of these janitors in my workplace, and she said, she always says this: the higher up you go, from her experience, the less common sense you have, in that you tend to be a lot more fixated, I guess, in routines and certain, I guess, standard of thoughts. So you're thinking more about, you're thinking about how to rationally explain certain things, but it isn't always rational. Always doesn't, I guess, equate to, the real world. I guess sometimes you have to be a little bit more pragmatic.
That's how you do things.
Yeah, and I think once people become experts, or they get to the very top, they lose a bit of that, if you know what I mean. So you want amateur coming in, the possibilities are endless. Whereas with the expert, there's so many restrictions and there's so many things that they are guided by. So yeah.
Definitely.
So another bit here says, the best way to get started on the path to sharing your work is to think about what you want to learn and make a commitment to learning it in front of others.
Yeah. Make a commitment.
Do you have any? Sorry,
go on.
do you have any qualms in relation to learning? Learning in front of others. What do you think about that?
A lot of the time, I feel like human beings, and speaking for myself, I feel like we don't want to see that. We don't want to see somebody kind of just. We want to see it when we've seen them be successful, and then we'll go back and look at the learning process. But honestly speaking, I don't know how many times you've gone back to watch the learning process of somebody who has failed.
Yeah.
Right. I think as humans, right, you want to see somebody be successful. Like, okay, let's take Arsenal for example. They put their training videos on YouTube, right? And you watch the training videos because these are professional football players, right? But I don't know if, right, I would watch the training video of, I don't know, some year 12s, do you know what I mean? Or year 13 school kids, like having the training match. Like my heart isn't, like, my mind wouldn't go there. So I say that to say, I believe as human beings, we don't want to see behind the scenes of somebody who didn't succeed.
That's
what I really think. That's the reality.
I think that's real.
The caveat though,
go on,
is that when you're going through the process, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. So sharing your work is a good way of personally documenting how the steps you took.
Of course.
So I think there are positives for the individual, but I think sometimes, in terms of like the people watching what you do, some people just don't care.
Again, I think it depends on what game you're playing. I think if you are showing your work for monetary reasons, then I guess if there's no feedback, you're gonna stop, or maybe not stop. You're gonna be discouraged to continue doing what you're doing. So there's always an element of positive reinforcement in relation to whatever you put out there. I think that's really essential, and that's very important. We can't discredit that fact. However, I get where the angle Autin Kleon is coming from, which is share. You have to be a documentarian, right? Just basically share what you're doing, so that there's a catalog of your past experiences and how you got to where you got to, so that people can, if people want to follow that, they can follow that, and there's going to be a bit of there's going to be a story. So assuming you become successful, that there is that, and that is invaluable. If you are successful, that is obviously invaluable.
I think as well though, having said that, I think if for example you're trying to learn what the right things are to do, or the right things aren't to do, or having that catalogue, I guess is good, because it shows you, if you are to go back and review it, it can show you where you went wrong and whatnot.
Yeah,
so,
that's a shout.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for voids that you can fill with your own efforts, no matter how bad they are at first. Don't worry for now about how you make money or a career out of it. Forget about being an expert or a professional, and wear your amateurism on your sleeve. Share what you love, and the people who love the same thing will find you.
Yeah, I can back that.
Okay. So I guess obviously we've defined what amateurism is. So this is wear your amateurism on your sleeve. We all know what he means by that. Does it mean just putting trash out there? But who defines what trash is? I guess. But
that's a topic for another day.
Yeah. So I think here it goes on to say something. So it says something along the lines of, if you experience a near-death, accident, or you were in a near-death experience, many a times you would have this kind of like existential euphoria, where it basically dawns on you what life really is, and you'd be thinking, oh, you know what, this is my last chance, so I'm basically gonna live it up, because fuck it, like, you've only got one life. Do you know what I mean?
YOLO, that's true.
Yeah. So that was this bit here.
So like to read obituaries every morning, right?
Yeah, I mean, just to remind yourself that you've only got this one life, and live it up, kind of thing. Think process, not product. Take people behind the scenes. That's the next chapter, which is the whole kind of like idea of show your work. Just put your stuff, your stuff out.
Put your stuff out there. Take people behind the scenes. Let them see what you're up to.
Yeah.
Boom.
So this is right here. By putting things out there consistently, you can form a relationship with your customers. It allows them to see the person behind the product. So audiences not only want to stumble across great work, but they too long to be creative and part of the creative process. So like you said from the beginning, I guess you're speaking for yourself, and I kind of resonate with that to an extent, that if the person isn't successful, then you wouldn't want to see what they're doing behind the scenes, because you haven't got this product to validate this behind the scenes.
The process.
Yeah. So, so I mean, to an extent, you would disagree with that from that point of view. However, from the point of view of actually documenting your work and having a catalog of what you've done to then put out when the product is ready, or just for, for people to see if they're interested, then fair enough. So be it.
Absolutely. And I guess success is only defined is a variable thing, isn't it? So if you have 10 fans and those 10 fans really love what you do, and they're willing to follow the process, and you get them engaged, and you get them like it growing like that, as it says in Lean Startup, your early adapters, you get them engaged and you get it growing like that. I guess that's a positive thing, right? So there's
something I want to say. I just had an idea in relation to what Autin Kleon is saying in relation to this. So say so you spoke of a Premier League footballer, right, playing football. You wouldn't have watched their behind the scenes training if you didn't know who they were. If you didn't know who they were, sorry.
Or if I didn't,
if they were nobody.
Or if I didn't care for the process or what they were trying to achieve.
Okay. However, I think that's slightly different to when you think of it from this perspective to, let's say, an artist working on an album and then releasing certain mixtapes or certain songs that are not or that wouldn't ordinarily be on the album. So maybe the artist process would be, there are certain songs that they're making, but then within that process, occasionally they make off the top freestyle just to warm up before they go into their daily session of working on the real stuff, the real thing. So can you say that's, to an extent, that's revealing the process?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess you can share. You don't have to be successful to share your process. I guess you got to redefine what the process would be, or redefine what game you want to play to an extent.
No, definitely.
And then we go on to another chapter that talks about become a documentarian of what you do, which is what we've basically exhausted and talked about in depth. Okay, so it says, become a documentarian of what you do. Start a work journal, write your thoughts down on a notebook or speak them into an audio recorder. Keep a scrapbook, take a lot of photographs of your work at different stages in your process. Shoot videos of you working. This isn't about making art, it's simply about keeping track of what's going on around you. Take advantage of all cheap, easy tools at your disposal. These days, most of us carry a fully functional multimedia studio in our smartphones. Share something small every day. That's difficult, You know, like you gotta be. I think consistency is the hardest thing, honestly. But it's so rewarding when you are consistent. But it's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
In all honesty. Somewhere in the book he talks about, and I partly disagree with this and I agree with it at the same time. Here's me contradicting myself again, I know. but this is my thing. I believe that not everyone that works hard is successful. Not everyone that is lazy is poor. Yeah. So here's my thing. So I think that you got to put it into context for people. Yeah. You can work hard, but also work smart, yeah? And then by so doing, you create your own luck. So I think there's an element of luck, and if you're Christian, there's an element of, I guess, God, blessing you for you to be successful in whatever you do, yeah? So there's that. But to say that hard work automatically and always equates to success is wrong. It's a wrong statement.
Hard work always and automatically relates to success.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can back that.
Yeah,
I think I can back that. I think most of the time, though, if you work hard enough at something, you will make enough headway where you will make big strides towards your goals.
Of course.
And
let me just make this clear. You can't be successful without working hard. However, working hard isn't always the a recipe for success.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a good one to stay focused. So building a substantial body of work takes a long time, a lifetime, really. But thankfully, you don't need that time in one big chunk. So forget about decades, forget about decades, forget about years, and forget about months. Focus on days.
Yeah. So I guess you're just talking about trying to focus on the
trust the process, cuz.
even the flesh. Trying to focus on the day-to-day incomings and outgoings.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Trust the process, man.
And don't think about the massive picture.
Nah.
Or the 10 years from now.
Exactly. So trust the process. That's what it is, man. Day-to-day thing, bro.
But obviously make sure that the process, you're always reviewing it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Don't just trust the process blindly.
Yeah. They just be showing anything.
We're moving out here like David Moyes and them on there, you know what I mean?
I like David Moyes, man.
Okay, so where are we?
Good evening.
Right. And I think we read this and we basically disagreed with it straight away.
What's that?
So the SWOT test is about, I guess, from my perspective, what I saw was he was sort of like, scrutinizing your work carefully before putting out there. Don't just put anything out there. But then that doesn't, for me, it almost seems as though you're kind of like holding back.
But on stuff.
Something, yeah.
Right.
So that's why I don't like the SWOT test. So over here, there's a quote here. It says, as publicist Lauren Serrand says, post as though everyone who can read it has the power to fire you.
Yeah, I don't like that. Post as though everyone who can read it has the power to fire you. I don't like that at all.
What do you like about it?
I think when you think about somebody having the power to fire you, you think about somebody who, if you post something that they disagree with, they could easily pull the trigger, right?
Yeah.
But 90% of the things that you think are right, some people may not agree with, and if them disagreeing with it may mean that if they were your boss they would fire you, I think it's a problematic statement. So post as if everyone who could read it would fire you. I think it's good if you wanted to post something and you were wondering if it was like okay, let me think about this properly.
Can you see it from this angle? So post as though everyone who can read has the power to fire you. So from this angle, if you're writing a blog or you're creating a content and you knew if this blog or content was below par, you're going to be fired, then you're going to do your utmost best to ensure that it's of good enough quality, right? So from that perspective, would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Okay. But then from the other perspective of post as though everyone who's reading this has the power to fire you, I guess it kind of like limits. There isn't much liberty in the content creation. I think that's the angle you're coming from.
Yeah.
You're thinking about something.
Yeah. No, because I think as somebody who is being creative and putting your work out there, you have to put aside the fear of, say, angering someone. If you think that what you're putting out there is true to you and is something that you love to make, you have to put away the fear of somebody seeing it and being angered by it. Now, that's not to say go out there and be inflammatory, but that's to say the fear of people's reactions shouldn't be your primary thought when you are posting something.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that's why I disagree with that statement.
I think ultimately that's where we want to get to. But from what you've said, we can disagree with it from that angle, but from the other angle, I think it kind of makes sense. Yeah. So the bit over here says turn your flow into stock. So if you work on something a little bit every day, you end up with something that is massive. Stock and flow is an economic concept that writer Robin Sloan has adapted into a metaphor for media. Flow is the feed, as the posts and the tweets. It's a stream of daily and sub-daily updates that reminds people you exist, right? Stock is the durable stuff. It's the content you produce that's as interesting in 2 months or 2 years as it is today. Sloan says the magic formula is to maintain your flow while working on your stock in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah? You back that?
Come back that. Cool stuff.
So the flow is the stock. You can see the flow as a stock. So the process is the product until the final product actually comes out.
That's actually done, yeah. So the flow is part of the stock.
Yeah.
And the stock is after the flow.
And there's another bit here that says build a good domain name. So
yeah,
having a website, I guess.
Great stuff. Love it. Domain. I love the word domain. You know, domain. You know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like domain.
Domain.
There's some words that are just sound like roll off the tongue and sound good.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Yeah,
lasagna.
You're digressing a bit. Let's move on.
You know.
Don't be
apple pie. Sorry.
Don't be a hoarder. Open your cabinet of curiosities. So the problem with hoarding is that you end up living off your reserves. Eventually, you become stale. If you give away everything you have, you're left with nothing. This forces you to look, to be aware, to replenish. Somehow, the more you give away, the more comes back to you. So I guess the only way I can think about this is is he saying that if say for instance if you have a backlog of content, is he saying that it doesn't force you to be, I guess, creative or to think on your feet to make more stuff? Can you look at it from that perspective? Because it says over here that the problem with hoarding is you end up living off your reserves. Eventually, you become stale. If you give away everything you have, you're left with nothing. This forces you to look, to be aware, to replenish. Somehow, the more you give away, the more comes back to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I can agree with that. The more you give away, the more comes back to you. I can agree with that. I think the saying is necessity breeds creativity or invention, something like that.
Yeah.
So if you need to make something, and you need to make it good, because if you don't make it good, your boss may fire you, then I guess you'll be forced to make something that is good, and you'll be forced to invent. You'll be forced to be creative. Yeah. You know, I think it's a bit like you know, when you have a uni assignment, the deadline is next week. Like, you know you have to get it done for then. Like, it's a stressful week, but it's a creative week. Like, you know what I mean? You find a way to get the work done.
Sure. Yeah.
So, whereas if you had, you know, past assignments that you could hand in, you wouldn't be too bothered. What do you think?
Yeah, about that.
About that.
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that's it for now.
For now. Yeah.